I'm Shannon Martin, tonight showing solidarity after a deadly attack in Afghanistan.
The international community needs to pay attention to the cause and recognize that this is a genocide that's happening in Afghanistan.
We'll take you to a protest at Toronto City Hall as the Afghan community comes together after a suicide bombing at a Shia education center.
I was diagnosed with breast cancer last year, and the Nanny Angel Network has just been a great support for my family.
October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. We'll take you to a special event honoring Ontario parents living with cancer, the incredible work one organization is doing to support families in need.
What's important for me was like ordinary people, like on the street. Everybody knows about what is happening in Iran because this movement started with ordinary people.
After tens of thousands of people filled the streets in Richmond Hill as part of a global day of protest over the death of a young Iranian woman, we'll bring you the story of an Iranian-Canadian artist and how she's paying tribute to her home country.
This is CBC Late Night News.
Thanks for joining us. We'll have those stories for you in a moment, but we want to begin overseas tonight with what's being called one of the deadliest stadium disasters ever. You've likely seen the headlines all day. More than 120 people were killed in Indonesia after police fired tear gas inside the stadium. Talia Ricci shows us how it all started and the questions being asked tonight.
Chaos and mayhem filled the stadium after fans, enraged that their team lost, stormed the pitch. Police then fired tear gas, they say to regain control, instead triggering a deadly stampede. Most of the dead were trampled or suffocated. I saw many victims. It was unimaginable, said this survivor. Police defended using the tear gas, saying they were under threat, but witnesses say it was fired into the crowd indiscriminately.
This is a dark day for football and the tragedy beyond comprehension.
The use of tear gas in stadiums is banned by FIFA, soccer's governing body. Amnesty International is calling for an investigation.
This is a fight or flight reaction. So faced with a circumstance that is apparently life-threatening, namely noxious gases, you may never have experienced these kind of fumes before, and they're quite debilitating. Eyes streaming, choking sensation. So yes, you run away from it.
In a national address to the country, Indonesia's president says he has asked the chief of police and the minister of sports to thoroughly investigate security procedures at football matches. It was also revealed the match was oversold, the stadium over capacity, now the scene of one of the world's deadliest sports disasters. A growing memorial outside the stadium as fans sang and lit candles for the victims. Among the people killed were this woman's two younger brothers, 14 and 15 years old. They had gone to see their team play for the first time. Family learned of their deaths Sunday morning. My family and I didn't think it would turn out like this. This tragedy unfolding just months before Indonesia hosts the 2023 FIFA Under-20 World Cup. Talia Ricci, CBC News, Toronto.
Back in the GTA now, it was a day of demonstration at Toronto City Hall as people showed solidarity with women and children in Iran and Afghanistan. This past week, a suicide bombing killed students in Kabul. As Meg Roberts shows us, Afghan Canadians are demanding better security for a community that's been targeted before.
Protests in Kabul following a suicide bombing at an education center, quickly broken up by the Taliban. But today at Toronto City Hall, dozens of people picked up where those Afghan protesters left off.
Killing kids, infants, in hospitals, schools, public buses and public transportations. That's where we are targeted. There is nowhere safe for us.
The attack in Kabul on Friday, killing at least 19 and wounding many more. Among the casualties were teenagers taking practice university entrance exams, many of them girls. It took place in an area populated mostly by ethnic Hazaras who belong to Afghanistan's minority Shia community.
The international community needs to pay attention to the cause and recognize that this is a genocide that's happening in Afghanistan against the Hazara community.
People at the protest calling out a long history of being targeted. Protesters asking international authorities to conduct an investigation into the treatment of Hazara people and to hold the Taliban responsible to keep all people in Afghanistan safe despite their religion.
You are responsible, the so-called responsible for what's going on in Afghanistan. You are ruling over the country and you have to protect us.
Some protesters demanding the Canadian government allow Hazara people to seek refuge in the country.
Every day we are losing life back in Afghanistan and in Kabul, across the country.
No one has yet claimed responsibility for the attack. However, the Islamic State group, the chief rival of the Taliban since their takeover of Afghanistan last August, has in the past targeted the Hazara community. Meg Roberts, CBC News, Toronto.
Well, also at Toronto City Hall today, another show of support for women and girls in Iran. A handful of people demonstrating there today after yesterday's just massive demonstration. Tens of thousands of people you see there filled the streets in Richmond Hill, chanting the name Mahsa Amini. The death of the 22-year-old has sparked international protest. In September, she was detained by Iran's so-called morality police for allegedly wearing her mandatory headscarf too loosely. She fell into a coma and died in hospital. Well, here's the latest look at Iran now. The country is now facing its third straight week of angry protests there, all triggered by the young Kurdish Iranian woman's death. Dozens are now believed to have died since protests began.
And when I was cutting that, I felt like I feel just maybe 1% of the pain that people are going through these days.
Coming up in about 15 minutes, we'll hear from an Iranian-Canadian artist in Toronto. Last night, as part of Nuit Blanche, she actually changed her piece in light of the ongoing protests. We'll have more on her story a little later on in the show. In other news tonight, Ottawa police say they arrested 7 people and handed out 88 tickets for open alcohol after thousands of students crowded the streets to celebrate the Panda Games. Take a look at this video from the Sandy Hill neighborhood. This is from last night. After the annual football game between the University of Ottawa and Carleton, the University of Ottawa GGs took home Pedro the Panda with a 37-7 victory over the Carleton Ravens. Police say they were breaking up crowds after some people began throwing objects at officers. In a statement this afternoon, police say they're still collecting online and drone footage, and there are multiple criminal investigations underway. A man from Calgary is facing multiple charges after a 17-hour standoff with police in Mississauga. You remember this. Peel police were called to a facility near Credit Valley Hospital early Friday morning. That was because of reports of a man with several firearms had barricaded himself inside a medical building. Police today releasing these photos of guns. Crisis negotiators work to get everyone out of the building safely. Peel police now working with Calgary police as the investigation continues. The 66-year-old man facing multiple counts, including forcible confinement. We should learn tomorrow the results of a vote by tens of thousands of Ontario education workers on whether to strike. The Canadian Union of Public Employees says this will end a strike vote period for school staff. Now, that includes librarians, custodians, and admin. The union represents 55,000 workers. Voting began on September 23rd. Education Minister Stephen Lecce has criticized the move as premature as CUPE began planning for the votes before the government's first offer was tabled. Again, results expected tomorrow. Keep tabs on our website for this one. There are more bargaining sessions planned for later this week. A memorial ceremony at the Ontario Firefighters Memorial on College Street to honor the province's fallen firefighters from the last 2 years. The names of 36 individuals were read out loud and added to the wall, in addition to 98 names of those who were lost during the first 2 years of the pandemic. Premier Doug Ford was there to lay a wreath on behalf of the province and pay his respects.
They're all heroes who made the ultimate sacrifice in the name of duty and service to their community. And while they're no longer with us, their honor and sacrifice will never be forgotten.
This is the first time in the last 2 years Ontario could pay tribute to its fallen firefighters in person due to the pandemic. 200 trees are freshly planted at Clairville Conservation Area in Brampton. The event was meant to teach young kids about the importance of Ontario's green belt.
The environment is important because without the environment, we can't survive. We plant trees to make more oxygen.
Yeah, the trees breathe in what we breathe out, and we breathe in what they breathe out.
Well, there you go. It's working. The event was organized in part by the Greenbelt Foundation, which boosted funding today in support of the Earth Rangers. There's programs for kids and their families across the greater Golden Horseshoe, inspiring them to protect nature through different community events. Sophia's
right
here with
up
our,
my alley.
I was just gonna. I was literally thinking that exact phrase because we're like this. Hey, Sophia. Yes, that is so something that I know you would be so thrilled to do.
Ready to get my shovel out and help.
Yes.
That's wonderful. And what beautiful sunny skies. But did you notice something in those shots? The hats and the hoodies and the bigger jackets. I organized all of our winter clothes today, Shannon.
Oh,
Not
no.
fun.
That's
Not fun.
depressing.
It is.
I'm not ready.
First weekend of October in the books, folks, and it was a chilly one. Beautiful, though, but it's this chilly trough that we're in that has really saved the day and kept all that remnant moisture from Big Storm Ian stateside out of our neck of the woods, but kept all the precipitation out. But think about a lid on a pot on the stove taken off, and it lets all the heat escape as well. We've got widespread frost advisories in place for your overnight period. Caledon, Orangeville, Ottawa, Barrie, this could be the end of your growing season, even into London as well. Monday morning, when the kids wake up and get ready for school, it will be downright chilly, feeling close to the freezing mark, and we don't get much warmer with a high of just 15 for the afternoon. I'll tell you, though, about the warm-up midweek.
Okay, thankfully we need that. Thanks, Sophia.
Fingers crossed.
October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. According to Cancer Care Ontario, 1 in 8 women will get breast cancer in their lifetime. Today, a very special event was held to honor parents living with cancer. Families got to have some fun and connect with community. As Tyler Cheese shows us, it was also a fundraiser for a group that offers GTA families much-needed support.
Space-themed snacks, face painting by starlight, even an up-close look at a NASA spacesuit. Just some of the out-of-this-world attractions at today's Love You to the Moon event. This celebration is put on by the Nanny Angel Network.
It's our annual family event. It's truly epic because it's a 3-generation event. We have families who have been supported by the Nanny Angel Network. We have our funders, and we have our volunteers who've all come together to celebrate our success and to give hope.
The charity provides free healthcare support and programming to families living with cancer.
When a child has a parent with cancer, nothing is normal for that child. And being able to come into an indoor event and to experience something that is very normal, coming to a museum, being able to touch interactive things is incredible.
Volunteers are partnered up with families to help provide additional care.
My family, actually, their story is really inspiring because the mom who has cancer, she's actually a widow, and she lost her husband a couple years ago to the same cancer she has now. So now it's just her and her 12-year-old daughter. So now I'm a part of that too, and now the 3 of us are just so close, and they're such a strong family.
For many, today isn't just a celebration, it's an opportunity to say thank you.
I was diagnosed with breast cancer last year, and the Nanny Angel Network has just been a great support for my family. They have helped us in so many ways, even simple things like meals on the days when you can't get up after your treatment.
Her son Alexander attends a support group with other kids his age whose parents are also fighting cancer.
And just being able to see other people that go through the same things and like hanging out with them, doing activities, it's pretty fun.
Looking around, positive feelings spread into every corner of the room. But today is also a fundraiser. A virtual auction runs alongside the event with items like an Italian holiday and Justin Bieber tickets, raising a total of $80,000 for the charity. Tyler Cheese, CBC News, Toronto.
Welcome back. The number of dead after Hurricane Ian's 2 U.S. landfalls has grown now to more than 80. For many, it was another day surrounded by floodwater. And as Paul Hunter shows us, for many more, it was another day surrounded by destruction.
Along what just a few days ago was a neighborhood street in Northport, Florida, now sit abandoned cars, marooned homes, and a kind of stunned disbelief this is even happening. Paul Busal fled Fort Myers for Northport just before the storm hit, thinking that here he'd find safety.
I left early before it started over in Fort Myers.
You left Fort Myers and you came here?
Yes.
And what do you think of what's here?
This is crazy.
Northport now suffers renewed flooding. There's so much storm water in Florida winding its way back to the Gulf. It's overflowing a nearby river and stranding those who live here. There's no fresh water to drink, no power, and in Florida's heat, no air conditioning.
My daughter's having a hard time. She's disabled. You know, she wants to leave. And I told her we can't leave, we can't get anywhere, you know.
Meanwhile, closer to the Gulf Shore, on San Carlos Island, west of Fort Myers, the twisted wreckage from the storm remains everywhere. Likewise, the vivid stories of those who stayed put and survived. You were here when the storm hit?
Yeah, I was foolish enough to stick around.
At what's left of George Luty's home, he tells us his story of Hurricane Ian. Caught by surprise when the storm turned inland, the water rising quickly, storm raging, nowhere to go, he saw dogs, cats, furniture, cars, and boats swirling past his place as the water rose higher.
Getting so high, I'm going for plan B.
He showed us the ad hoc life preserver he grabbed, his construction helmet for safety, and picked up the story with the water 3 meters high.
So I was up there like this, hanging onto that, one leg over this, back up against there, and stuff was just boom, hitting me in the back of the head, hard enough to jostle me like that. And if it wasn't for this, that would have knocked me out. I would have been drowned. They probably would have found me right here.
These are the kinds of stories that abound in these parts right now, while recovery workers continue their massive cleanup and rescuers keep up the search for survivors in need, but are finding more bodies, as George Luty told us before we left.
I still have friends that are missing.
A reminder, the stories from this part of Florida will get worse.
That was Paul Hunter reporting. Well, to Brazil next, where the election for president is heading to a runoff between two polar opposites. The challenger is former leftist President Lula da Silva, heading the Workers' Party. He was jailed during the last election on a corruption conviction he says was politically motivated. Polls suggested controversial right-wing President Jair Bolsonaro was trailing, but it was much closer than predicted. The runoff balloting is 4 weeks from today.
For myself, the innocent girl came to capital to visit the city but got killed by the morality police.
A Nuit Blanche performance adapted to highlight the protests in Iran. Toronto-based artist Roshan Shafi changed her first ever piece for Nuit Blanche just days before the show as conflict continues in her home country. She created a video art piece with cell phone footage from Iran and cut her hair in memory of those who've died.
What those people have right now in Iran is their phone and some videos that they barely can send because they don't have access to the internet right now. And so the phone and the social media is their weapons. And every time that I want to cut my hair, I can drop the name of the people who was killed during the recent protests in Iran. I feel just maybe 1% of the pain that people are going through these days. I really wanted people to just know what is happening in Iran and just put themselves for a second in their shoes. Something very, very basic that you can't just show your hair in that country.
That was one of just dozens of art installations that filled Toronto and the GTA last night. Thousands of people roamed the streets from sunset to sunrise, taking it all in. It was the biggest one yet, with art downtown in North York to Scarborough and Etobicoke. And it was quite a mild night, too, making it quite comfortable for roaming around and seeing some art. But that's all coming to an end because Sophia said the F word.
Yep.
The dreaded F word.
The frost.
Oh my
Snow
gosh.
might even make it into this forecast as well, Shannon.
No.
It's that time again, first weekend of October, and don't let the sunshine fool you this week, folks, because it is feeling awfully close to the freezing mark for many of you right across the province. We are talking about frost, widespread. Did you cover up the tomato plants? Because it may be too late if you haven't. Bright, beautiful bluebird skies, though. It's the kind of high pressure that will make you feel like you won the sunshine lottery, especially Tuesday. Look at that. 11 hours of sunshine, but first you have a rather chilly Monday morning to get through, where it feels like the freezing mark as you're dropping the kids off to school all the way from London up to Barrie. So you may want to pack that winter jacket and layer up. Just the mid-teens for Monday afternoon, even a slight wind chill for some of you, feeling a couple degrees cooler with that northwest wind. But then something amazing happens, Shannon, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, where we dip back into the 20s. Folks, enjoy this little midsummer feel. Little to no chance of precipitation all across the province. It will be lovely. These are the days to take off work if you can, but then watch this U-turn. Thursday into Friday, we go down by about 15 degrees, where the overnight low becomes the daytime high on Friday for a chilly start to the Thanksgiving long weekend. And this front that comes in that makes things rather cool. Shannon could actually bring a little bit of conversational first snow, there you go, I said it, to the Thunder Bay, Timmins, and maybe even to the Sioux area. So
oh boy,
never too early. It's winter always in Canada somewhere, isn't it?
It's true, as long as we don't need the snowsuits for Halloween costumes.
Oh,
you know
I know you're getting ready at your house.
Yeah, we are a little into it. Thanks so much, Sophia. We have to show you this before we go because Adira, this 2-year-old red panda, it was her last weekend at Toronto Zoo. She's heading off to San Diego. She is super cute. We hope you have a great week. We'll see you next weekend.